Welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. This talk is going to be about a pen which I've discussed a little bit in some of my other videos, but I found this on eBay. Here's the auction, and based on the description and how the nib looked, I made a bid on it, and luckily I got it for a price that I was comfortable with. And the pen, when I received it, exceeded my expectations. It arrived in under 10 days from the UK. And the only thing I did was polish up and work on the clip, and we'll show you a little bit later what I did with that. But the pen is just very, very nice. It's in excellent condition. So one of the things that shows up on this end of the barrel, as you can see, there's a little circular line which kind of relates to this material which forms the barrel and cap and how it was plugged. The other thing is this has a very good imprint on it. It is a number 58, and based on where the 58 is located, this is probably early 50s manufacturing, and to me, something almost 70 years old, I just find it to be in excellent condition. One of the things that I like about Conway Stewart pens is all of them basically clean up very well because the metal parts were gold filled and not plated, so therefore there's a decent amount of gold on there, which under normal use is not going to wear off. And the materials that they use for the pens just hold up well over time. So here's the nib in real life, in real time. So you can see, you know, it's a lot of these nibs in the 50s that I find were stubby, kind of like your classic, looks like a Waterman spoon feed, but I haven't had to take many Conway Stewarts apart because the nib and feed generally work pretty good after a thorough cleaning, and hopefully the person who restored this did a thorough cleaning. You can tell I didn't restore it because the lever, we'll use that pronunciation, is not in line with the nib at all. So, and I'm not going to play around with it, not something I would do. This pen is a kind of beefy pen. There's a good sized section on it. It's probably one of the beefier pens in this time frame from Conway Stewart. And if you post it, it posts fine. It doesn't change the weight. This is a relatively light pen. When I got this pen, the only thing on it that I felt wasn't quite right was the clip was loose. It had been bent up. So one of the things that's nice about Conway Stewart's is there's this little screw-in holder that holds the clip in place. So you just unscrew that, take a nice piece of a rubber or some type of grippy material, unscrew it, and then you can easily bend the clip to make it fit properly. I'm also going to clean it up a little bit to take out some of the tarnish on it before I put it back in, and it'll be fit and ready to go. The clip has been polished and cleaned up. Hopefully that shows well on the video. So the assembly is very easy. The clip fits very nicely in the way the cap is contoured, and this screw, as you can see, has a lot of nice threads on it. It screws in. As it gets near the bottom, the clip tightens up, and I use a piece of rubber band, this nice solid gripper, which I use for a lot of things, for that last final turn to tighten it, and we're all set. Nice functional clip now. During what I call the high point of Conway Stewart, which is probably late 40s, 50s to mid 60s, they made a huge variety of pens. So I wanted to put the 58 in relationship. This is a 22. Here we got the 58. This is an 85, and this is a 77. So one of the things is the cap bands are somewhat indicative of the level of the pen within the Conway Stewart hierarchy. So the three bands were generally reserved for the higher end pens, a little bit of larger pens. So it's kind of a little bit of a perspective. Here's a close-up of the business end. The nib on the 77 is definitely the larger nib of this group. Sadly, it's not as nice as these other nibs are because it's kind of a stiff accountant style nib, but it's still nice, and I could, you still use it for what it is. You can see also the section on the 58 and the 77 are pretty close to the same size, and the 22 is a fairly small pen, and the 85 is kind of like the mid-size in between. There isn't a direct correlation between the number of the pen, the size of the pen. Obviously, the larger numbers are slightly a little bit larger, and sometimes I'll put an L at the end, which means it's a longer pen, usually longer by about a ½ an inch or so. So let's get some ink in this puppy and see how it writes. The eBay description called this a faded red hatch. Here is a red hatch which obviously hasn't faded. Here's green and here's blue. It's a completely even color, so it's not something that you typically find if it was, faded from sunlight or heat or some other source. I kind of think it's a gray hatch, and the gray hatch just has a tinge of pink to it. That's my thought. They did make a gray hatch, not very common, but it was one of the colors that they used. So I thought we'd just take a look at these, and I did a full review on these 373s because I was very happy to get these colors. And so if you want to, I'll put the link in the description to that full review if you want to take a look at that eye candy. Picking an ink was difficult, but I had to go with this one, considering the last time I tried to use it in an eyedropper, it peed on my top here. So I used this ink. There's how it looks. It's interesting color. There's a chromatography, which I think is kind of interesting. Doesn't look like it has much water resistance, but it's a nice greenish blue color, which is what teal seems to be. And there's a nice little band of intense blue at the very top there. I'm going to write with this pen posted. It feels nice posted, and it is a little short, so I like the way it feels in the hand when it's posted. I like this nib. I like this nib a lot. If, I had to only live with one nib and this was that nib, I could do that. The wetness is perfect, and I think it really does good justice to this ink, which seems to have a decent amount of shading to it. The ink's a little bit on the light side, but I think that's designed to exemplify the shading, and it is a soft nib. It doesn't need much pressure to write. It's not that sensitive to angle, but if you put a little bit of pressure on it, it opens up, and as you can see, pumps out a decent amount of ink, which is always a good sign in a pen. Now this paper, this Fabriano paper, ink dries pretty quick on it. So hopefully you've enjoyed this little review of another find on eBay, and hopefully you, if you're interested, I mean, to me, for the price of this pen, there's nothing that can compare to it from anything else. And this is also a pen you could write with all day, the way it's shaped and size and weight and everything. And of course, the nib just, I don't know, excites me. So thank you for watching. May you have many, many, many great pen, ink, paper, and nib experiences. May you have an incredibly good new year. Until next time, bye. Nice ink.